What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel. I never noticed that, like, when I wear the black, I almost look like a floating head. I wonder if I could green screen Rachel Bush's body on me, and that would, like, would that get me more clicks? Would that get me more subs? But today, I want to talk to you guys about my top 10 free agency targets for the Philadelphia Eagles in this offseason. Now, I will say, it's a top 10 because that's the easiest way to format a video like this. It's not necessarily my exact dream, personal, realistic top 10. For that, I posted on my Patreon on the weekend my top 50, I think it's even 50 plus players that Philadelphia could be interested in signing this offseason. Go check that out if you're already subscribed to my Patreon. If you're not, that's just the sneak preview of like some of the things that you are getting access to my Patreon. Exclusive Eagles content, exclusive draft content, Madden files, everything in between as I shamelessly plug my Patreon here in this video. But go check it out. It's a great way to support my channel at its finest. But today, I do want to talk to you guys about my top 10 Eagles free agency targets for YouTube. For this YouTube video, we'll call it. My top 10 targets for this video. You know, we got a brand new head coach, Nick Sirianni, brand new offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, coming over from the Chargers, and a brand new DC, Jonathan Gannon, who's the defensive backs coach in Indianapolis. So understanding that definitely influenced some of my moves, some of my potential moves here. There's going to be no premier players. Don't expect me being like, Philly needs Kenny Galladay and Chris Godwin. We have no money. And I do expect Howie Roseman to get a little bit of wiggle room. Right now, Philadelphia has one of the worst salary cap situations in the entirety of the NFL, but Howie Roseman is good at that for the most part, and I expect Philadelphia to be able to get a couple new guys, but we're not going to be getting premier players. We're going to be getting guys that are most likely signing like starting day 3, we'll say, in free agency. We're not going to get in on that first wave, so, you know, if you're expecting something ridiculous in this list, that will not be the case. So we'll start at number 10, and number 10 is kind of, I'm just kind of pigeonholing a couple of the Philadelphia Eagles that I want them to do their best to re-sign. First up, we have Boston Scott, who in his 2 years for the Philadelphia Eagles, he's over 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 7 touchdowns. He's an ERFA, so pretty much Philadelphia just has decided, do we want to give him on a 1-year cheap deal, which absolutely they should, and it should be automatic, but given the fact that it's a brand new coaching staff, there's a chance that they might not do it. They absolutely should. Boston Scott is very good for the Philadelphia Eagles. Same goes with Alex Singleton. Alex Singleton last year, kind of a breakout performer on the defensive side of the ball. 120 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 TFLs, and an interception. He's also in ERFA, so 100% Philadelphia just going to be like, oh, yeah, let's get him again on another 1-year cheap deal. And really, he should be the first name on our linebacking depth chart. He's solid. I mean, he's not going to be the next big thing at linebacker. He's not great in coverage, but what he does do, he does well, and he's a good athlete, and I think he's solid. He's absolutely a very solid player. The last one is Cam Johnson, our punter. I feel like he's a restricted free agent. You could probably get him very similar to what his salary cap is right now. He's a middle-of-the-park punter. I would say top 15 punter in the NFL. He's reliable. Pretty sure he does the holds as well. So there's some consistency and some chemistry that you want to keep on the special teams unit. That I think it's worth to keep Cam Johnson around. It's more so he might not be the best coffin punter and stuff, but he really makes a bad punt. So I just think the peace of mind that we would be able to have by keeping Cam Johnson back there as a punter would be worth it. So those are the 3 Eagles taking the number 10 spot that I think Philadelphia right away should look at locking in. 9 through 1 are guys that are outside of the building. So at number 9, we look at a tight end because Philadelphia, almost certainly Zach Ertz will not be a member of the squad. Richard Rodgers, I mean, you know, Philly likes to have 3 to 4 tight ends. I would say Richard Rodgers would be worth bringing back as well because he showed a little bit of chemistry with Carson Wentz. But at number 9, I would look at reuniting Trey Burton. 28 catches, 250 yards, 5 total touchdowns last year. He had 3 receiving, 2 rushing as kind of a wildcat quarterback. His current salary is under $1 million with the Colts right now. Is kind of a cut rate deal, but I think come back to Philadelphia, we might get a little bit of a hometown discount to reunite the band, the Philly special. But Trey Burton's solid. He's a reliable set of hands. He's a chain mover. Would be a good tight end too behind Dallas Goedert. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, if they don't, they can look at Mo Ali Cox because I think we are going to get and try to bring in, much like our coaching staff, a lot of the free agents from the Colts. And you're probably going to see a lot of the free agents from the Chargers potentially on the offensive side of the ball because it's just what is familiar, and especially depth guys that aren't going to be expensive but know the system. That is going to be key for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Mo Ali Cox, like 270 pounds, is a good compliment to what we have. More of a blocker, but caught a couple touchdowns this year for the Indianapolis Colts. I'd be fine with that, but it's Trey Burton. Trey Burton's making the list because of the Philly special. And I've always been a homer for Trey Burton. When he was coming out of Florida, I had him on my mock draft as a priority, the top priority undrafted free agent for the Philadelphia Eagles. We actually got him, and I think I'm going to take sole responsibility for the Philly special. Number 8 for the free agency targets, I have TJ Carey, who was, veteran corner, played for a bunch of teams. Last year was with the Colts. 32 tackles, 2 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, had a 71 PFF score for whatever that's worth. And he was, again, much like Trey Burton, on like a 1-year, under $1 million contract. He was a depth corner. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, we just decided last year that the best way to help out the massive acquisition of Darius Slay was to surround him with nothing but slot corners. Vontae Maddox, Nickel Roby-Coleman, Trayvon LeBlanc. It didn't work out well. And I think when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Trayvon LeBlanc set to be a free agent, Nickel Roby-Coleman free agent. Vontae Maddox is interesting. I like Vontae Maddox. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's better suited to be either a slot corner. We could experiment him at free safety. And I think you could pencil him in as like slot 1, but we need outside corners. I'm not saying TJ Carey's going to come in and be a starter for us, but we also need guys that have length that can play on the outside, that aren't always going to be an every down starter. And that's exactly what TJ Carey, I think he can carry over the exact same role that he had with the Colts last year. I mean, he did give up 20 catches on 36 targets, which is not amazing, but as long as he's just depth, as long as he's just like part of a rotation that actually has some outside length and is not a 5'9" corner trying to play on the outside, and let's be honest, we'd hope a new coaching staff gets rid of the injury bug, but injuries just seem to live in Philadelphia. Having depth that are knowledgeable of Jonathan Gannon's scheme is going to be very important. And I think TJ Carey can be a very nice role player that we can plug and play on the defensive side of the ball and give us some nice outside reps. Number 7, kind of have 2 players. I'll focus on one. And this is kind of looking at some Charger free agents. First up, 2017 lineman. We'll just say number 7, Chargers 2017 draft lineman. Dan Feeney would be nice, potentially, but I'm more so identified in particular Forrest Lamp. Screw it, I'll just say both of them. Both of them have been underperforming, and I like both of them when they're coming out of college. I think both of them had solid ceilings when they're coming out of college. They just have not developed in LA. And when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, you look at our coaching staff, Jeff Stoutland, the wonders that he has been able to do with Jordan Mailata. He's one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. I think when you look at guys that were drafted as top tier at their position, like Forrest Lamp was a guy that a lot of people thought was easily one of the best day 2 offensive linemen in that draft. Dan Feeney was regarded pretty much as a consensus top 3 guard in that 2017 draft. They have potential. It is still not there. It is still not squandered. So I think between Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney, as we're the Philadelphia Eagles looking to get more versatile, I think Forrest Lamp makes the list. Screw it. Let's just get back and we'll just focus purely on Forrest Lamp, because I think the value of Forrest Lamp is like, hey, he has that potential that Jeff Stoutland may be able to develop. And Shane Steichen coming over from the Chargers, he'd be like, all right, let's get again more zone blocking guys here. But Forrest Lamp plays everywhere on the offensive line. Maybe not center, but he can play either guard, he can play either tackle. That versatility is key, especially with all of the offensive line combinations the Philadelphia Eagles ended up having last year. If we can get a buy low contract on Forrest Lamp, have Jeff Stoutland develop him, it could work out very, very well for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I mean, you'll get Eagles offensive line. Brandon Brooks not getting any younger. You could always look to challenge at left guard for Isaac Seumalo and look for an upgrade. So I would definitely look at Forrest Lamp as a versatile lineman that could get coached up very well in here in Philadelphia and just add additional depth across the entirety of the offensive line. You get guard depth, you get tackle depth with one player. Very, very valuable. Number 6 for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm looking at DeMarcus Walker, defensive end of the Denver Broncos. Last year, 18 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 3 TFLs, and 1 forced fumble. He's coming off his rookie deal. He's just kind of been buried on the depth chart there a little bit. Rotational defensive end. But for me, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, it's almost, much like Zach Ertz, a foregone conclusion that we're not going to bring back Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett is solid, but he's not going to be worth like the $10 million salary cap that he has. And he hasn't really parlayed anything he's done in his NFL career yet to getting a next big contract. So I'm looking at DeMarcus Walker. He was a guy when he was coming out of Florida State. I was like, he's pretty much Derek Barnett. And Derek Barnett had a little bit better bend, a little bit stiffer to DeMarcus Walker, but very similar in terms of their pass rush moves, very similar in terms of their style. So I just think if you just kind of want a budget Derek Barnett, was definitely still some upside. I think DeMarcus Walker is good. He was a beast at Florida State. I just feel like we need defensive end depth. We're not going to be able to bring back Derek Barnett, so why not get a guy that stylistically is very similar and is just probably wants an opportunity to just move up a couple more notches in that edge rush. And hell, even DeMarcus Walker might be able to challenge Josh Sweat for defensive end reps. Our defensive end situation is not going to be very clear until probably the first game of the regular season, because you got BG, Ageless Wonder, but on the other side, we're hoping it could be Josh Sweat, but if not, you need that other guy that can sub in and add some value on rotation, and I don't think that guy's on the roster right now, and unless they address that in the draft, and I'm not really thinking about the draft in this video, I think someone like DeMarcus Walker could be a budget Derek Barnett for the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 5. Could be expensive. This guy's starting to get into, might be too pricey for Philadelphia, but I'll talk about it. I have Eric Wilson, the linebacker from the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, 122 tackles, 3 sacks, 8 TFLs, 3 interceptions, and 8 pass breakups. He was playing on his RFA deal, which is about $3 million. That's probably about the range he's going to get for a salary. There is a buyer beware when it comes to him. It's like, well, is he really this productive? Is he really this good? Or is it because he plays next to one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL in Eric Kendricks? I think it's probably more so he plays next to Eric Kendricks, but he looks like a solid linebacker. I've gone back and watched a couple Minnesota Viking games, and I'd like to hear what the Viking fans think about Eric Wilson, but, he just, Johnny on the spot, Mr. Right place in the right time. And there is some value to that. Sure, he's not the guy that's dropping back into coverage and just absolutely owning and suffocating opposing tight ends and running backs. A lot of times he's just right there. There's some value to that. That's IQ. That's positional awareness. So I think when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles right now, you have Alex Singleton, who's more of a traditional thumper, early down linebacker. We don't really have anyone that's good in coverage. And I think someone like Eric Wilson will give you that balance to your linebacking core. You have the Singleton, who's the run stuffer, staying more in the box. And then you can have Wilson run off and try to handle the running backs and the tight ends in the middle of the field and drop them back into coverage. So definitely in terms of the linebackers, he's probably going to be like second tier, third tier, probably second tier of those linebackers. So I figured I'd mention it because stylistically, he's what the Philadelphia Eagles should be looking for and adding to our linebacking core. But at number 4, if we can't afford Eric Wilson, just another solid linebacker that's not Nate Gary or Duke Riley that Philadelphia should consider, I have Anthony Walker Jr. from the Colts. 92 tackles, an interception, 5 pass breakups, and 2 TFLs last year for the Indianapolis Colts. It was really solid anytime he had to fill in with no Darius Leonard on the field. But, you're not getting... It's kind of like Alex Singleton. Anthony Walker athletically is not really suited to drop back into coverage, and you don't have to worry about him. He's more of what he sees, he hits kind of thing, which is he's reliable. He's a reliable tackler. You need 3 linebackers, and we could have Alex Singleton and Anthony Walker Jr., and then that third linebacker, I don't know if it's Davion Taylor. I don't know if it's going to be an Eric Wilson. I don't know if it's going to be someone else that we draft, but no one's ever really had an issue when you have 2 just really solid, stout linebackers. And I think that's what Philadelphia could have if they go with Alex Singleton and someone like Anthony Walker Jr. And Anthony Walker Jr. obviously is very familiar with Jonathan Gannon for their time in Indianapolis. Philadelphia just needs linebacker depth. I think Anthony Walker won't be too expensive, knows the scheme, and could be a very, very solid addition. Number 3, staying with the Colts, I have Xavier Rhodes. I think this is a very important make it happen sooner than later move for the Philadelphia Eagles. Xavier Rhodes last year, 42 tackles, 2 interceptions, 12 pass breakups, had a 76.3 PFF score after what was a horrific year, horrendous final year with the Minnesota Vikings. He was burnt toast. He was not good whatsoever, but resurrected his career last year under Jonathan Gannon with the Indianapolis Colts. I think this has to happen. He was on like a $3 million deal. It'll probably be in the same range for Philadelphia to bring him over, but he absolutely can plug and play on the outside, on the other side of Darius Slay. This needs to happen. 100%, even though it's not number 2 or number 1, this is like the number 1 move that has to happen with the Philadelphia Eagles because we're not drafting an outside corner that can play for a rookie this year. We have to find one in free agency, get someone like Xavier Rhodes, who's a veteran, knows the scheme, excelled last year. This has to happen. Number 1, it should be the number 1 move, not the number 1 target, the number 1 move. Xavier Rhodes needs to be corner 2 for the Philadelphia Eagles next season. Number 2 on my list of free agent targets, we're staying in Indy, and I have Malik Hooker, free safety. Tore his Achilles. That's a DBs with torn Achilles is a soft spot for Philadelphia because the last time we had a DB with a torn Achilles, it was Sidney Jones, and he never panned out. Personally, I've had a torn Achilles. It's a terrible injury to come. I would say it's probably right up there with an ACL in terms of wow. It is a killer of an injury, and it's going to be a long road back, and you lose your explosiveness. And who knows if Malik Hooker's going to be the same player that he was before this injury. It's going to be a gamble, whatever team tries to sign him. But in 2019, he had 51 tackles, 2 interceptions, and when he's coming out of Ohio State. Athletically, he was as good as you would look for in a free safety. He was a ball hawk, very good cover guy. Didn't like to tackle so much, but on his game, he is incredible in coverage. And I think when you're Philadelphia, you look at the free safeties. Jalen Mills set to be a free agent. Kavon Wallace couldn't sniff the field as a rookie. This could be, again, another boomer bust, buy low. I would be worried about Jacksonville. Urban Meyer there in Jacksonville could also be looking at someone like Malik Hooker reuniting there. But I think Jonathan Gannon, because of the ties, the DB room, Philadelphia needs help at safety. Very uncertainty with our safeties. This could be a buy low type move in bringing in Malik Hooker. I have no idea what the market's going to be for someone like him, but I do think if on the Philadelphia Eagles, he has all the makings of being another Jason Verrett. Jason Verrett was just injury prone. He's with the Chargers. Ended up staying healthy last year with the 49ers. Was outstanding. But I feel like there has to be a guy like that this year. Could be Malik Hooker. And I would love him to be a member of the Philadelphia Eagles on a cheap. It'd probably have to be a 1 year because he'd probably gamble on himself to get back, get healthy, perform. But even then, Philadelphia, beggars can't be choosers. We have no salary cap. We can just get him on a 1 year, prove it. That'd be awesome. The number 1 free agency target for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a dream one because this would be not impossible, but very tough for the Philadelphia Eagles to pull off. But it's easily the number 1 addition after Xavier Rhodes because Xavier Rhodes is very realistic and should happen. And my number 1 target for the Philadelphia Eagles is Curtis Samuel. We'll just call him an offensive weapon from the Carolina Panthers. Last year had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 5 touchdowns. And when you look at the number 1 thing Nick Sirianni is probably looking for in his offense, it's the Nyheim Hines. Who's going to be the Nyheim Hines? It's not going to be Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders had terrible hands last year. So many drops. I think Demetric Felton, the weapon, we'll call him that, out of UCLA, could be interesting for the Philadelphia Eagles, but it seems like with the way that he's raised his value from the Senior Bowl, probably he's going to yield 3rd round pick, somewhere that, and that might be too rich for the Philadelphia Eagles to spend. So I'm looking at someone like Curtis Samuel, who could be that Nyheim Hines gadget player for our offense. Honestly, he'd be our running back too, and probably our wide receiver too. So there is immense value for a player like Curtis Samuel in the Philadelphia Eagles. And understanding our salary cap, this is really me just being like, oh, that's the shiny toy that I would want, but we probably can't afford it. However, the wide receiver, like the salary cap's coming down across the league, and he's not going to be a day 1, day 2 signing a wide receiver. Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, Corey Davis, a couple other guys that are probably going to get paid more and paid first before Curtis Samuel. So that could be like a low-key signing. Like I remember, it might have been 3 years ago, like Tevin Coleman was leaving the Atlanta Falcons. Everyone thought Tevin Coleman was going to be this next breakout running back because he was so good as an RB2 for Atlanta. And then just no one kind of signed him. And then he went to the 49ers on a cheap deal, and the rest is history. I'm not saying that's going to be the same with Curtis Samuel because he clearly is coming off like the best year of his career in Carolina with Joe Brady. But I feel like something similar could happen with Curtis Samuel, or at least his price comes more in realistic reach for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that'd be an unreal hire because you need that gadget player that we currently don't have. Don't know if you're going to get it in the draft, so why not get a proven commodity in Curtis Samuel, who could just do a lot of things for the offense and be that Nyheim Hines for Nick Sirianni. So there you go, guys. Those are my top 10 free agent targets for the Philadelphia Eagles in this 2021 offseason. Obviously, a lot of work needs to be done, especially for our salary cap before we can start hammering out some of these deals. But let me know what you feel about these players in the comment section below. And if there's anyone that I missed, make sure you let me know in the comment section below. Or check my Patreon, because I probably talked about it, because I broke down over 50 friggin' players that the Philadelphia Eagles should be looking at targeted. Thank you guys for watching. I made it through without being too sick, which is always a positive. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow with another video. Thanks for watching, and peace out.